The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Hey, welcome into the latest edition of Crossed Flags. Matt will be here in just a moment. We are, of course, at our homes, as you can tell, and get to have a little bit of fun with our pets from time to time. But Matt is back, and welcome back in. You just came back from, I guess, what we could call a CRN field trip. We'll talk about your trip to the All-Star weekend here in just a couple of moments. That's, of course, where you were during last weekend's big show. But first things first, we want to talk about Indycar, because what we saw over last weekend while NASCAR was running the All-Star race was Indycar was setting everything up for this weekend's Indy 500. And we've heard of penalties post-qualifying or whatever in NASCAR quite a bit. You don't hear it that much when it comes to what's going on in the world of IndyCar, but not just one. Two Team Penske cars, Will Power, Joseph Newgarden, who, by the way, is on a two Indy 500 winning streak run right now, both got penalized. Both are going to have to start from the back of the pack because of what they found in post-qualifying inspection, and that is modifications that are not approved to an attenuator. Give us a little bit of an idea exactly what an attenuator is and what you think that they did to it that caused the red flag.
It's the attenuator is dealing with a hybrid system that is with the car that is on the tail end piece of the car that is right there in that area where the wing and the T-bracket for the wing attaches to the frame of the car. And it's not supposed to be completely sealed off. There's supposed to be a little bit of a gap there where the attenuator attaches to the car. And what they did is they sealed it off with a sealant and smoothed it over so that way there's no drag that is generated from where that little bit of a gap is, where air hits it and would deflect off of it and create drag for the car. They sealed it off to make it sleeker. Now,
Will Power and Joseph Newgarden, along with Scott McLaughlin, they all were on, what was it, row 4, or I think it was. And this drops, obviously, Power and Newgarden back to the back of the pack. It doesn't seem to have helped them in qualifying. Was this something that might have been more set up for them to maybe gain something in a longer event like running 500 miles?
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure. And the reason why I say I'm not 100% sure is because as much of a mess as this is turning into, and that's how I can word it, because there's been photos that have surfaced from the car last year that Newgarden won his second straight 500 with, that has a sealed off attenuator as well. And that very car is sitting in the Indianapolis Museum. So I don't know if it's something that has been, I don't know if it's a legal move and people just haven't said anything about it, or if it's a legal move and if it's something that people seen and they didn't like and they just pitched every holy you-know-what about it. And this is something that I'm still learning myself on and figuring out where the full advantages are of everything.
Speaking of dogs,
she is over the choir again. And it was on the car last year, and now people are trying to go. If it was on the car last year and he won the race,
right?
Should this win be vacated and forfeited? The way I see it is, if it's illegal now, it should be illegal always. If it's on that car last year and won the race, the most prestigious race in the world, and they get thrown out of qualifying because it was modified from round 1 to fast 12, it does raise a legitimate question.
Okay. Putting you king of IndyCar for a day, are you stripping an Indy 500 win from Joseph Newgarden?
If it's illegal now, it's illegal then.
Okay.
And honestly, now Scott McLaughlin's time still stands because the car that he flipped in qualifying in the practice that morning before going to the Fast 12, that car got destroyed.
Right.
So his time still stands by technicality, but Newgarden and Power's car, yeah,
They go to the back.
They go to the back. Okay, hindsight 2020 in this. If I'm Dale Coyne and I'm Jacob Abel,
You're wanting in.
I am standing at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro screaming. I didn't make the race with a legal car, but they made qualifying round with an illegal car.
Mm-hmm. I heard that at the very least, there were a lot of people saying that they should have been bumped down and had to have participated in the bump day activities at the end of the day.
Pato O'Ward's got a legitimate point. He's got a legitimate point. They should have went to the last row shootout.
Yeah.
Automatically.
Yeah. I think that is a very legitimate point.
Yeah.
You know, and once they got it fixed, I don't necessarily think that it would have mattered that much. I think they still would have made the field. The Team Penske cars are too good. You know, and everyone's trying to do something.
They would have, but the thing that I am raising an eyebrow at, this is now twice in 2 years that Tim Cindric has been busted for something pretty sizable.
Yeah. And we talked about him.
I'm beginning to wonder if it's his fall from grace is on his way.
I'm wondering because, I mean, we talked about him at the beginning of the year and how much he's backed off within the ranks of Team Penske to where he's really not the person that he was before. Right. I got to admit, I kind of wonder as well, is he on his way out the door?
It's making me wonder.
Yep, I do too. We'll find out. We'll keep up with it. And of course, we'll update you when it comes to this Saturday on the big show. That turns us over to NASCAR. We're going to spend the remainder of the show. We'll kick off, though, with RFK Racing. Got an update from what we had on the big show. We figured we would have this update because we said on the big show that RFK Racing had until 5 o'clock, close of business, Monday to figure out whether or not they were going to file that appeal on the 17 of Chris Buescher. Turns out they did decide to file the appeal, so they're working on trying to get the money back, the 60 owner and driver points, and the 5 owner and playoff bonus points as well. So we'll see what happens with that. In the meantime, I don't know whether they're going to expedite that, truth be told, or not. So we'll have to wait and see whether or not that happens. So there's your quick update on that. All right, let's talk All-Star race here. You were up there, and you and I were texting a pretty good bit. And the first thing that hit me about your texts back and forth was that you felt the exact same way of getting onto the grounds and going into the facility of North Wilkesboro Speedway as you did when we went into Darlington in 2018.
Absolutely. Because when you're coming through the Carolina countryside, literally the Carolina countryside that you have to go through to get to the racetrack, which sits on the eastern side of Wilkesboro. Even though it's classified as North Wilkesboro, it sits on the eastern part of the Wilkesboro area. Okay. You're driving down literally a 2-lane country road. And it reminded me of the where you turn off Ohio. I think it's Highway 441, if I'm not mistaken, where you turn to the left off of I-20 to going into Darlington. Mm-hmm. It gives you those same vibes going through, but instead of going through flat countryside, you're going through winding roads and across the hillside, and then you're peeking in a little bit of a valley. You're climbing that valley, and off to the left, the racetrack sits on top of a hill.
Yeah, because you're
literally in the middle of nowhere.
You're going up into western North Carolina, which means you're starting to get up into the mountainous area.
You're not very far. You're not far at all from Boone and Lenore, North Carolina.
There you go. So if that gives you a better idea of exactly where North Wilkesboro is, smacked with history, no doubt about it. And you got us a souvenir as well that we're going to show off whenever we get the fine, outstanding Palace headquarters of CRN. You got some of the asphalt that was used or was pulled up when they started doing the repave.
Yep, I did. Got a jar of it.
We'll have to show that off. Maybe let's show that off on Saturday. Do show and tell on the big show. NASCAR released several statistics after Christopher Bell got Joey Logano to the win. 41st edition of the All-Star race. Think about that. Third consecutive year, obviously held at North Wilkesboro. At this point in time right now, we've been noticing here lately they've been doing this stuff in threes. Hopefully this little experiment will continue. And the reason why is I'm going to set this up. These are all NASCAR statistics. These are not mine, so take them for what they are. 59 green flag passes for the lead. That is the most all-time in any All-Star race. Whether or not that means a whole lot, I don't know. I mean, this is not at the line, obviously. This is, battling back and forth at the front of the field. 18 lead changes, though, at the start-finish line. Series most all-time in an All-Star race, going all the way back to 1985. Throughout the field of 23 cars, 1,426 green flag passes. Does that seem right?
Yeah, I believe it.
They say that's second most all time, second only to Charlotte in 2018 when they had 1,494. 8 different leaders tied for the second most all time in an all-star race. The record happened in 2002 at Charlotte. That's 9. Bell, by the way, also a first-time winner of the all-star race in try number 5, and the 27th different driver to claim an all-star race win. So this is a short track. Let's start right there. If there has been a major fault for this Gen 7 car, and we've gone through many of them, built like a tank at the very beginning, which caused injuries that, well, quite likely probably ended Kurt Busch's career. Things like that. The racing on the short tracks has been a major shortcoming for this Gen 7 car. What changed?
I will say this, and I'm pretty sure I said this very same line to you as well when we were communicating back and forth. Whatever they unloaded with on this package for these cars, leave it alone. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Because in the last 2 years, and I will say the last 2 years, I'm going to go 2 years being from mid-2023 all the way to current day. That's about a 2-year gap. That is hands down the best overall short track race that there has been with this car.
I do tend to wonder how much Goodyear had involved in that as well, because we know that they keep playing with the compounds on these short tracks for that tire.
Something that I caught really, really fast on Friday afternoon when I got there, and they were within the open practice session with the open cars and the main all-star cars. That racetrack was taking rubber exceptionally well, and it had to do with I know it had to do with the compound tire that Goodyear brought.
Okay.
And that compound seemed to me, by visually watching how the corners were widening out, because that track went from a groove and a half racetrack to, dare I say, a 4-groove racetrack in a hurry.
Yeah.
It widened out. It was from all the way from the bottom, and I had a perfect line of sight at turn 3 and 4. It widened all the way from the bottom by the inside wall at the concrete strip they have that's probably about 4 feet wide up until where the transition of the banking is. It widened all the way from there to probably, dare I say, 5 feet at worst, 5 feet from the outside wall. It widened that much.
You and I, go ahead and finish up. I've got a thought coming, but
yeah, and when it widened up, you could tell automatically when everybody started running their different grooves, the pace picked up. Even if they were on the bottom or the top, the pace picked up. And it was good.
Yeah. The formula that they used in the asphalt here is the same stuff they used at Atlanta Motor Speedway, correct?
Yes.
Which means that it's aging a little bit, or it feels like, I should say it that way, feels like it's aging a little bit faster than what a normal repave at, say, a Talladega back in 2007 did, which, while Talladega's gotten some personality over the years, I mean, for at least a decade, Talladega was as glass smooth as the day that they paved it.
There is some personality characteristics I've caught on I caught on up at Wilkesboro at different points of the track. Case in point, there's a spot coming out of turn 4 at the bottom groove and a half. If you hit it right and you can watch the tail of the cars, they go porpoising down the front stretch, and the cars would unload, causing majority of the wrecks that happen on the front stretch because the rear of the car unloaded and got everybody loose, and then they're going every which way.
So with the personality that's going on there, can we attribute this to that repave, or is it just a really, really good setup with a good tire combination?
I'm going to say it's 50-50.
Okay.
I'm going to say it's 50-50. The repave, as the race went on and as the air cooled off, the pace definitely picked up, and the aggression level, it didn't go off the radar end of the radar meter scale. It picked up to a very, very, very good point.
Okay.
And it was during the Open. I told you, I said, they literally just went 4 wide and didn't wreck.
Right. And my eyes popped wide open when I read that, because
4 wide and didn't wreck.
4 wide at North Wilkesboro doesn't seem like it should be possible.
It shouldn't, because with MRN having the radio call for the All-Star race, and where we were at, Dave Moody was up to my immediate left, sitting at the corner of where the spotter stand is, and he made the quote during the Open, as hard as these guys are racing, I don't know if right now if we're at Daytona, if we're at Talladega or North Wilkesboro, because they're 4 wide.
Yeah.
There were spurts during the main where there was, I think the most that it went was probably 3 laps, but still running 3 wide for 3 laps straight at a short track like that.
It doesn't seem possible.
Yeah. It shouldn't be possible. But the overall front to back action, even in the Open, it seems to me that this combination of the tire that they put with the car there, do not touch it.
Yeah.
Leave it alone. That was good.
Let's take it to Richmond. Let's take it to Martinsville. Let's take it to Bristol, and let's see it. Take it to New Hampshire. Let's see if it does the same thing at them. Yeah, go take it to Iowa too. Take it to anything that's a mile or less. Let's go, and let's see what happens.
It was really good.
I look forward to seeing what's going to happen there.
Because one thing that I caught on is when the grip level picked up, and I was listening. I was trying to listen real hard. If there would be a small breakaway just far enough where I could listen to the throttle trace points, I could hear it. The leader, whether it be Logano, Keselowski, or Christopher Bell, one of those 3, because they were the dominant leaders, even though the lead changed 18 times. Mm-hmm. As it went on and they got further out and the grip level slowly increased, when they were picking the throttle up, it wasn't what you call a roll into the throttle. They were stabbing the throttle.
Wow.
And it was sticky.
Okay.
And one other thing I think we found, and one of my pet peeves that I have had with this car and how this driveline in this car is, I think we may have found a problem how to eliminate shifting.
Oh, yeah?
Because it wasn't during qualifying. It was actually at one point. No, I take it back. Yes, it was during All-Star qualifying Friday. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I do vividly recall the cars of Noah Gragson, Tyler Reddick, Michael McDowell, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Austin Cindric. Those 5 cars that I vividly remember the most, when they grabbed third gear, and they never got out of third, when they grabbed third gear, it stayed. They
So
never
that track
shifted.
particularly set up well for a third gear run.
The way the gearing of the transaxle and the transmission and everything is, how that is, it seemed combined with the tire combination that they had, it seemed to set up ideal for the car.
Which brings up a question then. How much leeway do these teams have to play with the gearing in these transmissions?
There's a couple of people that I know within respective teams that I could ask that question. But it has to be geared a certain way. But to elaborate off what you just said, not sure how much one way or the other. Right. It has to be within a certain way to where when you're hitting your shift points, you don't over rev the engine and either bend a push rod, tag a valve, or break a valve spring.
Right.
So it's got to be set a certain way, just right at that fine line. What that fine line is, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I could probably find out.
It would be interesting to find that out.
Sure.
And one other thing that I want to talk about here, and this has been the subject really of just about any TV, podcast, or radio show that you want to talk about. After witnessing what you saw in the All-Star race, should North Wilkesboro get a points race? And the main argument against it that I've heard, and I tend to agree with this, is the difference between an all-star race and a points-paying race is the fact that this all-star race, you either come away with $1 million or you effectively come away with nothing, which means there is an urgency there that causes them to shoot for the moon right now. If you're talking about a points-paying race, number one, you're almost doubling the field from the 23 starters we had Sunday night to close to 40 if you don't get 40. And on top of that, you're making the race longer. It's going to be, 400, maybe 500 laps. And now you probably. And now you've got where all of those drivers from first to 38, 39, 40, however many entries there are, they're now thinking big picture, stage points, end of the race position. They're not necessarily worried about going for the win.
Right. And there's enough room of how that racetrack's done now versus how we saw it the first year that it came back with the old asphalt versus this new repave. The way that the racetrack has done by widening out and gaining that characteristic, I don't think that there would be a problem with 36, let's say 36 to 40 cars.
Okay.
I don't think it's a problem.
Okay.
Because the Wayland Modified race that was, not just that one, but the Cars Tour race that was on Friday night as well. There were, I think it was 33 Cars Tour late models started and 31 modified started. And it was still a fairly good amount of room.
Okay.
So I don't think it'd be a problem.
But now we got to deal with the mentality of the drivers. And would the racing be as good if you change the mentality of the drivers? Because now, again, you're thinking bigger picture, you're thinking points. One person did come up with an idea. We ought to put it in the playoffs and maybe make it a playoff cutoff race. Would that up the urgency a little bit?
Yes. And then some.
All right. We'll see.
I honestly think, but let's start it this way. Dear Marcus, referring to Marcus Smith, if you want to intensify the playoffs tenfold, you take your All-Star race, you put it back at Charlotte to have Charlotte Speed Weeks. The time of the year that it would fall, you take your Roval race and move it to Wilkesboro. There's your playoff race. There's your cutoff race.
Ooh. All right. I like where you're going with that.
And
All right.
there are loud chirps that scenario could come to pass. Keyword, could.
Could, yeah. We are kind of almost breathlessly waiting now for the schedule to come out. But here's the thing. I'm thinking August at the earliest, more than likely September before the schedules come out.
But when there are Fox analysts, broadcasters, reporters, the crew that were up there,
yeah,
when they're talking to the competitors,
mm-hmm.
when there are media members talking to the competitors and asking, does this place deserve a points race? There's got to look that smoke that's there. There's at least a match behind that smoke.
Yeah, there's a flame there somewhere.
There's a flame there somewhere.
Okay. But you also saw something that had no flame. You saw the latest iteration of the NASCAR EV doing a test session with, who was it? David Reagan behind the wheel?
David Reagan.
Yeah. All right. You saw it in person, up close, personal. Now, you and I, we FaceTimed. And I saw it, but you were there in person, and there is a difference between seeing it on a phone and hearing it through a phone versus being there in person.
That had to be one of the most puzzling things I have ever watched in my life.
Okay.
Ever. At a motorsports facility, whether it be anywhere from the likes of Talladega Super Speedway down through an NHRA facility like Charlotte or Indianapolis, all the way down to a local motocross track that used to exist not very far from here in Pell City.
Right.
That was the most puzzling thing I have ever laid my eyes and ears upon at a motorsports facility.
All right. Let's do this. We're going to talk. We'll talk about this more on the big show. You've got a picture, and we'll find out whether or not John can play some video that you supply to him as well. This is all ours. Matt takes credit for it, so we'll see whether or not we can do that and play around a little bit with that a little bit more and talk about this a little bit more in depth. Because the one thing that I could tell just from the video was the fact that, yes, this thing is screaming bloody fast down the straightaway, but this thing can't corner worth a flip.
The Saturday session that they ran with the car after the Truck Series race, when it's got so much straight line speed, I think he ran 6 laps, maybe 5, maybe 6 laps. Every lap but one, the left front was getting locked up on corner entry.
Yep.
I mean, boiling smoke.
Yeah.
Like I said, a road course. And you're going, huh? What?
Yep. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more on the big show coming up this Saturday. Hope you join us then. Hope you join us by subscribing right down below here, whether it's on CRN Live on YouTube or Jocks 94.5 TV. Both of us appreciate, both sides appreciate it very, very much. Obviously, feel free to comment anything that you want to say, positive, negative, by all means, do it. Especially when it comes to this NASCAR EV, because I know that this thing is a very controversial thing. It's got a whole lot of people going, hey, if they actually do this, I'm done with NASCAR. It's not happening anytime soon. Okay, so settle down there. So we'll deal with this on the big show come Saturday. Plus, we'll be ready for the greatest weekend in racing and the greatest day in racing from Monaco for F1 to begin the day, Indy 500 in the middle of the day, Coca-Cola 600 at the end of the day. Our thanks go out to producers John and Molly, who are both making sure that we get up onto the appropriate YouTube pages and take care of all that. And my, of course, thanks to Matt and who is it? Hope, that was barking and contributing in the background.
Yes, sir. That was her.
And our thanks to Hope for contributing as well. I'm Steve West. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to talking with you on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time, with the latest edition of The Big Show, CRN.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.